And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the Dog back on Aaron the Dog MMA channel, and we are back for another breakdown, the first of the week of two, both going down today. It is Breakdown Wednesday on the channel. Bellator 266 is the first breakdown of the day, and with me is my new Bellator Cage Warriors kind of European MMA specialist, I like to refer to him, Lewis of Norton MMA. Lewis, how you doing this evening over across the pond?
Yeah, not bad, man. Not bad. It's all dark out here now, but
It's England. Yeah, it's England. It's England. It's always dark.
It's always dark out here. Yeah,
exactly. Definitely loved having going over to your channel last week. I joined you to discuss a little bit of Darren Till over there and many other things. Went off the rails, my mistake. But everything over on Norton MMA, top notch. You do a lot of kind of reactions to fights, kind of tell people what the channel is about, and what people can kind of expect from you, a little bit of your background.
Yeah, man. The channel is based on opinions. We want discussions with fans, all in the comment section. We get a lot of back and forth. Doesn't matter if you tell me I'm wrong or right, or disagree. It doesn't matter. It's all about interactions and getting different people's opinions on MMA or just in combat sports in general. Branching mainly UFC at the moment, branching obviously to Cage Warriors, and we've got one championship videos coming soon as well. So,
is there more like one championship info over in Europe than there is over here? Because we don't know what the fuck's going on with ONE FC until like they just like kind of pop up. Is there more information over there with regards to kind of that scene, the Eastern European?
You get a little bit, not too much, to be honest. You have to subscribe to kind of their inner channels. It's kind of like you don't get Bellator on TV here. You get it on BBC every now and then. Other than that, you have to find some dirty streams online. So that's why Bellator in Europe is not really that big unless you go to the event. You have to find a stream, so only hardcore people kind of see it.
That's amazing because it feels like there's so much more European talent inside of Bellator. It seems like they really go out of their way, not to mention MVP is
Irish, English, Welsh, lots of them. Yeah.
Right. And they like go out of their way to sign these guys more than the UFC. So
yeah,
Bellator does a lot of things that don't make sense to me, including this weekend. They're going on Saturday again. I don't understand why they choose to go on Saturdays when there's a UFC at the exact same time. Yeah. Bellator should be a Friday/Saturday morning show for you guys. But either way, that's a whole other podcast. We do got 14 fights to break down on the card today. Definitely will say this much. There's a lot of debuting fighters, and we have some information on those, but also with this being a betting show, we know how sometimes these debuting fighters go, especially these wrestlers who come over with no amateur fights and decide to just go straight pro. We don't know how, a few of these guys are going to react to being hit in MMA or being challenged in MMA. We got a Muay Thai fighter making their debut here. We got wrestlers. So it's definitely a card where I think you want to be cautious because the lines are available on, I believe, every single fight on the card, which is great, but it's also dangerous because you're betting on 0-0 versus 4-5 guys. You're betting on 0-0 versus a 1-1 guy, and you think, oh, here we go. We got the guy who hasn't lost 4 times or has, and it just feels like there's no sure bets in MMA, and definitely when you don't know how the guys are hit. But I will be doing the odds kind of in my in the American odds language. But again, if there's any kind of spots you like and everything, we can kind of focus on that more. But and there's Miz, legend himself. What up, Miz? Good to see you here. Bunny, Pooh Bear, and I will be back for the UFC breakdown tonight as well at 8 p.m. on our new Wednesday night show. So we were going on Thursdays. We're at Wednesdays. But without any further ado, we are going to hop in here with a catchweight fight. I don't love catchweight fights. I've made that no secret in the past. I don't know what to do with catchweight fights, but I understand here a little bit. It's 0-0 versus an 0 or a 1-1 opponent. So we got Jesse Delgado versus Joshua Dillon. As you can see, Jesse Delgado has a particular set of skills and they're in wrestling. But Joshua Dillon, I will be breaking down first, the 26-and-a-half-year-old, 5'7", for the fighter who is – we don't even have a camp he's fighting out of. He hasn't fought. He did fight earlier this year. He did have a loss, however. In that fight, he was fighting Jamar Whitehead. He got knocked out inside of a minute. Jamar Whitehead did look quite athletic and quite kind of different with regards to, I think, the skills he was bringing in that fight, mostly a striker and a pretty touted striker. I think Jamar Whitehead we're probably going to be seeing at some point in LFA or, Cage Warriors, one of these smaller promotions. But he knocked him out in 50 seconds, and that happened in May. It's been enough time off. He had a rear naked choke win in his first fight against a guy who has yet to fight again. As an amateur, fought pretty low-level amateurs, did lose by a submission in his debut. Fairly active. But, yeah, Joshua Dillon, okay, well, let's not have that go off. Anyways, yeah, Jesse Delgado, he's a wrestler from Illinois, two-time national champion at 125. This fight's at 130. That he is about 28, 29 years old now. So we don't exactly know the level that Jesse will bring, other than that he's one of the best scramblers in all of collegiate wrestling. When he was there, that was what was noted about him. I watched both of his national title matches. He looks very athletic. I assume he comes in here and gets the job done, fairly dominating with the wrestling, but I don't know enough about it otherwise. And I do know Delgado's a fairly large favorite, nearly, I believe, a 4-1 favorite currently. By Saturday, he will be an 8-1 favorite. That's my prediction. So get him now if you're going to get him.
And as you say, you don't know how he's going to react to getting hit. The other guy has amateur fights as well, which could play into his favor.
5 amateur fights. And
that's a lot.
And all in the span of about a year and a half as well. From he went amateur in 2019. He's had 2 pro fights now too. He's very active. And Jesse Delgado has not had an amateur fight yet.
And it's not even going to be about can he stop the takedown, because if this guy's a champ and the other guy's just starting his career in MMA almost, he's going to get taken down if they're going to get close. So It's more about can he land a shot and can he test hit. That's what it's going to be about. In these sort of matches, I favor a wrestler. Now, granted, I haven't seen the fights you've talked about, his wrestling finals, but I would always favor a wrestler in a starting matchup. I think it's a lot easier to get close to someone while taking a shot than it is to land one big shot and knock someone out, especially at 130. That's you've got to be Henry Cejudo kind of power. Not many of those around.
He kind of looks like Henry Cejudo, just appearance-wise, and he's a great wrestler. But there's only one Henry. He's a minus 400 right now, 4-1 favorite, plus 310 on Joshua Dillon. I wish I could remember a couple weeks ago we had, I believe, an Oklahoma State wrestler who was looking really good, and he was the national champ. And first time he got hit, you immediately knew that the minus 650 on his price tag was a mistake, and there was nothing we could do. He never even got a takedown. He got dropped right away. I'll try to find it as the fights go on here. It's from like 2 or 3 Bellators ago, though. And I do think that Joshua Dillon clearly has shown he wants to be here with regards to as an MMA fighter. And it's just one that I don't think there's much of a reason to play it. Maybe I'll play it on a parlay or two, one of my longer parlays. But other than that, I'm going to leave it be. Jesse Delgado, though, could be a really exciting prospect for the flyweight division. 2-time national champions don't come by that often into MMA. And at 28, 29 years old, he's definitely in his athletic prime. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit either way, but I'm not going to be betting it too heavy. There's not too much on the prelims. I'll bet super heavy, to be honest. Next one here, Edwin de Los Santos taking on John Adams. John Adams, not the easiest name to look up on YouTube and find anything other than about the president, unfortunately, especially when you're an 0-1-1 fighter. There's just not a lot of highlights out there of you, John Adams. Superhero is his nickname. Sure. 5'7", 66.5-inch reach. We are definitely in the flyweight division. 0-1-1, as I said. Has not fought since September of 2019. These are just a lot of numbers where I'm not used to seeing on Bellator recently in their prelims. So I'm just a little surprised. He's actually in his third Bellator fight as well. Both of his fights, he had a majority draw against Eric Gunna, 0-0 fighter, and then he lost, actually tapped out due to strikes against Daniel Gonzalez, a 2-2 fighter. They were supposed to fight in May of last year. The event was canceled due to coronavirus, and they're like, you know what? A year later, we must have Edwin de Los Santos versus John Superhero Adams. So they rebooked it a year later. Corona was not going to prevent this matchup from happening here. Edwin is 4-0 as an amateur, fighting out of San Jose. He is not. He fights with Smash Fighter Fight Team. I know I've seen that fight team a few times. Can't recall who has fought from there recently. He did have a Muay Thai bout that he was scheduled for coming up next month. But yeah, we'll see. Or last month, but we'll see what the results of that were. They're unknown as of now. I couldn't find any tape on it. He does have 3 knockouts as an amateur, coming in the second and third round in those fights, including against a guy with 8 amateur fights, albeit 4-3-1. But KO power is there. John Adams has tapped due to strikes. I'm going to assume, what up, Bunny? We'll see you tonight. But yeah, thanks for popping in as always. Yeah, I'm going to go with the guy who's got the KOs and hasn't tapped due to strikes. I'm going to keep it kind of simple here. Edwin Dos Santos has been fun to watch. I've been able to watch all of his amateur fights. Has a very quick check hooks from both sides. Kind of a pretty traditional Muay Thai type of striker, good leg kicks. Yeah, and carries good power for the 125 division. So, yeah, I anticipate a KO here of John Adams.
One thing I know for sure is every pro I've ever talked to, every coach I've ever talked to say get as many amateur fights as you can. The fact that this guy has had 4 and he's finished 3 of them and by KO at that weight class, and the other guy just got signed from the get-go with no background. You know, he might have a different discipline he trained in. Maybe he was a grappler before and they just don't have the information presented. But being straight into Bellator and not doing well at all doesn't show well, especially for momentum as well. This guy, you know, to KO people in amateur, in your to have that confidence, granted it was a few years ago, but that means he's progressed in training. He's taken the time off, maybe he's progressed his body, whatever it is, if he's a young dude. Yeah, you got to go with, even though it's amateur, there isn't a crazy difference between your first pros couple fights and the amateur fighting. So
Yeah.
You got to go with momentum. You got to go with the guy who's got the proven record, even if it is slightly amateur.
Yeah, he's 27, and it does. I do believe he was also a former Muay Thai fighter. It doesn't show the record here, but he does move as if someone who's had a lot of fights not filmed in his life as well. So I do think that the experience is here. Yeah, Edwin. There's nothing to bet though. Edwin is a -800 favorite. -800, 8-1. That is $800 to win you $100 for a guy making his debut. No, thank you. A +550 on John Adams. I wish I saw anything. The draw he looked okay in. The opponent was terrible. Yeah, -800 on a guy making his debut. I agree. I'm not thrilled about that either. That's just like crazy. I'm not putting that even in any of my parlays except my long shot for the full fight card because I'm a degenerate. But yeah, that's just that's too bad. John Adams, I don't think he's going to get a 4th Bellator fight here. So I'm not sure what he does.
Knowing Bellator, he probably will get a five fight contract.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is really like a throwback and not the best of ways, but either way, next fight here. These prelims are full of weird fights, guys. We're gonna battle through these as we're going. I've got 29 fights I'm breaking down today. And hell, if I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about Eddie Abasolo and Art Hernandez at 4-5, taking on a debuting Eddie Abasolo. Eddie Abasolo is 34 years old, almost 35 now, making his pro debut here. This is at my favorite, a catch weight of 160, taking on the warhorse Art Hernandez, 4-5, almost 37 years old, out of Fresno, 5'9". Yeah. I don't know what to really say.
Old as well. One's 34 making a debut.
Yeah, 34 making his debut from Muay Thai against a 37-year-old who's 4-5 in Art Hernandez. The thing about the 4-5 is he's on Team Livewire, hasn't fought since December of 2019, so just over a year. It looks worse because it's the very end of December. At least it's not quite that 2-year layoff that we've been seeing a lot. 4-fight losing streak, unfortunately. But you look at who there are two. Mike Bravo, not great, but went to a decision at Tachi place. That's fine. JJ Ambrose getting ready to fight over in Cage Warriors coming up here next month. We'll be talking about him coming up. Very good, 31-8 fighter. Put him away inside of a round. Melsik Bagdasaryan, one of the hardest hitters in the entire UFC. I doubted him in his debut for some reason, and I'm not going to be doubting that guy again. He hits like an absolute – it's said too often, but he hits like a truck. So he put him away in 7 seconds. Like, that's what Melsik does. Like, Melsik's first fight to go longer than 45 seconds, I think, was his last fight. And then Luis Koske put him away in 18 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, he's getting put away against very good level of opponent here.
When was his last win?
Yeah, his last win, 2018. March of 2018, Armando Espinosa was 3-0 at the time. We go ahead and check out Espinosa. He is not fought since losing. So not a great sign there at all. He did win and finish his first 3 fights, however. But I don't love when a guy goes undefeated and loses and never comes back. You don't really know how good that guy really is. The level of guys Art Hernandez has beat, not great, but there's 2 rear naked chokes on there. Elbow finish also has a rear naked choke as an amateur. So what this kind of tells me is that he's got to avoid getting hit and make this a keep hating on Bellator. I don't hate on Bellator. I'm stating on Bellator. So don't give me that hating. Bunny's a little protective of her bunny tour. But anyways, with Eddie, Eddie does have a few finishes within Muay Thai. It's very, very rare that you see first-round finishes in Muay Thai, though. So you'll see a 5th-round finish. It says he's only 2-2 here, but he was 8-1 from what I found, or 8-2 from what I found on looking at Lion Fights information and everything like that. He's very good Muay Thai kickboxer, and I don't know how he is at grappling. I don't know how he is at wrestling. I don't know really where he's training out of for his MMA at this point. I do know he's still training Muay Thai. So I'm just not sure how dedicated he is to the whole MMA game here. This is one that a part of me is thinking if Hernandez can survive the fire, Hernandez can take this fight, I think, and kind of just make it a little bit gritty, just make it a overall MMA game. I don't know how his jiu-jitsu is. He could sub him, for example, but it's just like another one that it's dog or pass for me, if anything. Eddie is almost 35 years old now. I don't know how much he's training overall in MMA. And, it's just I think Art Hernandez has lost to very good competition, but he's faced very good competition. So, I mean, it's like he clearly has a grappling advantage here, and grappling is the route here. Get his back, rear naked choke could definitely happen. So I'll take a shot at the 4-5-1 Art Hernandez here, just because I just don't. I think Eddie has sharp striking, but it doesn't scare me, and I feel like Art can kind of work through it to get it to where he get it to a range he wants. So a little bit of a gamble here. I'm not going to be betting it heavily, but it's a dog or pass for me. I'll take the dog, Art Hernandez.
I think that's the smart bet, to be honest, because he's got the experience. He's got 9 fights in MMA. Yeah. This guy's never stepped in a professional environment in front of people with MMA gloves on. He's used to 8-ounce gloves in Muay Thai. You know, he's used to sweeping the leg and then get back up. It's how's he going to do when the underhook is, you know, it's slightly different from someone that's
never fought in a cage.
That's another thing. So I think you got to go with experience here. You know, the age is irrelevant because they're both similar. One's been finished, but as you say, JJ Ambrose is amazing. I love him. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's great.
And he's got the experience of
getting finished by Meltzik also is.
It's not that bad considering.
Luis Koski. That's how Luis Koski beats you.
Maybe could have lasted a bit longer, but losing isn't that bad. It's the way, isn't it? He got finished 3 times in a row. So
very quick.
One. Go with someone that has actually trained and fought MMA. Nine pro fights is, you know, that's decent. You know, he's like an Artem Lobov record. You know, you'd still back Artem Lobov to beat someone coming up. So it's that kind of thing. For the first time ever, go against the Muay Thai guy for me.
Yeah, no kidding. And Eddie he's a -225 favorite. You got Art Hernandez at +190. I'm surprised it's that close. I was expecting it to be a little bit further, but I do think that, you know, it's telling when we've got a -800 against a guy with experience. We got a -400, and then it's only a -225 here against a 4-5 opponent. And then what up, Eddie? Eddie's a fantastic photographer. Good to see you here. It's an interesting one, and I might be kind of really feeling silly after this one, but you know, I gotta go with my read here. One of these guys has an actual camp he's training with. The other one, as far as I can tell, isn't training at an MMA gym. So, you know, I'm gonna just go with the guy that seems to be preparing for an MMA fight against a Muay Thai fighter who's also fighting MMA. Next fight here is at 170, I believe, and we have a Gracie allegedly in Holland. Gracie 0-2. There's levels to MMA and there's levels to being a Gracie. And Holland is as low level of a Gracie as we get here. Taking on Shane.
The LFA of Gracies, is he?
Yeah, like even like lower, like a Titan FC. Like a Titan Gracie here. Doesn't have a nickname, doesn't have anything. He is wearing his gi in his picture. Taking on Shuga, that is Shuga, abysmal spelling. Shuga Shane Keefe here, the 6'1", 27-year-old here. Don't have a height or reach on Holland Gracie, unfortunately, but Shane Keefe, 1-0. I liked what I saw in that very short first fight. I actually got to see it. It was a head kick finish just outside of a minute, I should say, against a fellow debutante. But very, very confident. Got a rear naked choke and decision as an amateur. Did take off about 4 years in between his amateur and pro debut. Keith had a little bit of issues back in 2019 when he was first trying to make his debut, but has come back, fought in February of this year at welterweight, made weight, no problem there. Holland Gracie, what do we say? 34 years old, 6 foot tall. It's about all I got.
Does he need money?
He must. He had a split decision grappling bout against a Will Torres in 2019. That was his last experience competition-wise. His 2 MMA bouts took place in 2017 and 2006, or 2007 and 2006, against Kyle Ramos, never heard of him, and he lost to Dustin Hazlett. Dustin Hazlett, McLovin from the UFC. Yeah, I'm taking Shane Keefe here. Taking Shane Keefe to get another quick knockout. I don't know what Holland Gracie is doing here. And, just I think Shane Keefe is training at a legit camp in AKA. He's very touted prospect. I think that adding a Gracie to his record is going to be very nice for kind of early in the career to get some momentum. And I think he ends him quick. I really do. This is one of my more confident picks here. I was able to see some grainy footage of Gracie losing to Cal Ramos, and he doesn't have any wrestling really. So if he's unable to get this to the ground, I don't know how he gets it to the ground. He's been off of MMA for 14 years. I gotta take Keefe here.
Yeah, you'd expect it to be fast. You'd expect him to he'd eat a jab and he'd crumble. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you fancy trying MMA, and if you're a Gracie like this guy, he could just be like, I'm gonna try it again. Nothing more.
Right,
than that.
14 years later.
Nothing more is into his head. Then let's just give it another go.
It is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy. He was pro at 19 years old, because in 2006 he was 19 taking on Dustin Hazlett. That is crazy.
And
but
Hazlett is a wizard on the mat.
Yeah. Hazlett was so much fun to watch till he got a couple KOs and then decided no more concussions. But I mean, I got to go with Keefe here, right? Like, it's just the only option.
Yeah, if anyone bets Gracie, message, because you're crazy.
Well, here's the thing: is people are clearly betting him, or the odds makers are trying to tempt people to bet him. He's a plus 165 underdog. Gracie is. He's only he's not even a 2-1 underdog here. Keefe, you can get at 2-1 minus 200. That to me is a parlay builder. I also would. You can double up Keefe with. I'll point out a couple more of my more confident picks, but like a Murza-Aliyev maybe. Pair those two up for even money. Both of those guys I think are paired up with fighters they should beat. I think this price is only close because of the last name. Otherwise, I don't understand what I saw from Keefe. Interview-wise, he's very focused, and I think he has a lot of potential. 27 years old here, so that's all we got to say on that one. I just mentioned this fighter, but next fight here is at 185. Khalid Murza-Aliyev taking on Anthony Adams here. I'll just be calling him Khalid from here on out because I rushed through that last name for whatever reason as soon as the camera is on. I was saying to myself the whole time I was watching tape, saying no problem. For some reason, as soon as we get on here, I want to skip like 2 syllables in the middle and say Murza-Aliyev, and it's not that. So Khalid, Khalid versus Anthony Adams. I can do that. Anthony Adams, 8-2 out of Aurora, 34 years old. He is fighting out of Team Elevation as of his last fight. Nicknamed Sugarfoot. So we had Sugar in his last fight. Sugarfoot here, 6'1", 76.5-inch reach for the 33-year-old. He did fight last on the Contender Series back in last year against Impa Kasagane. And it seems like that was just so long ago. But Impa kind of just really just pushed the pace. Anthony Adams didn't really show me a whole lot in that fight. I was kind of disappointed. Even one of the things I was anticipating was the gas was going to be in his advantage, being at Team Elevation. That didn't really seem to show up either. He doesn't throw a lot of volume. Another thing you see on here is a lot of canceled bouts.
7, yeah.
Yeah, like 7 in his last 8 they set up. And
7 in 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, and for all, and they're mostly because of Adams, actually. We got Adams pulling out. The one with Fury, obviously he signed with Bellator, so you cancel that one out. But Gregory Rodriguez, he pulled out very last moments. I believe that was with the middleweight Grand Prix that he was supposed to be a part of. Colin Huckbody, he pulled out of weigh-ins. These are two. And Bestiev, really, he pulled out of that one as well. I'm not sure he wins any of those 3 fights, frankly. We saw how Bestiev looked against Ty Gorder a couple weeks ago. And obviously, Con Hookbody made the UFC. I think that would have been tough. Gregory Rodriguez, no doubt, would have beat Anthony Adams. We've seen how Gregory Rodriguez has been looking. So, yeah, I haven't seen a lot. I like that Anthony Adams. He hasn't fought since the Contender Series. He did fight on the Contender Series twice, lost to Onyejeke, who lost his last fight as well. I believe we'll be breaking down the fighter who beat him here. But Khalid, I'll be breaking down here next. The Russian, 15-2, coming off of that win over the Brazilian. Fabio Aguilar really beat down CB Dalloway for 2 rounds before that fight was stopped in between the rounds. Herb Dean, where are you at? Not currently protecting the fighters. He did lose in the 4th round to Abu Sufyan Ali Khanov, who was a very solid Russian fighter, I believe. Did fight over in PFL, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm thinking of a different, but has fought with Fight Night Global for quite a bit. Very good Russian fighter, 13-2. So no real shame there in that loss. A lot of finishes on his record that we've seen. I think that he's faced a pretty high level of opponent for most of his career. I don't think Anthony Adams has a lot for him here. Khalid, one of my favorite kind of early favorite, especially on the prelims, with the combination of information available and the fact that Anthony Adams doesn't go to the takedowns, which I think is where Khalid's a little bit weaker as the fights go down with his takedown defense. So if this is a kickboxing fight, I like Khalid to take it and put him away 2nd, 3rd round. And Sissy, if you could stop scratching right underneath the microphone. But your thoughts on the fight in this match?
I think if it does stay standing, Khalid has a very good body shot to him as well. He has great trips with that sambo background as well. Most of the Russians are kind of born with, going into a sambo lesson, so straight out of the womb. That you got to admire that sort of thing. So Khalid, he doesn't like to press too much. He kind of plods along, land a body shot, get in close, land a trip, and then kind of stay in a half guard, not really progress, and just kind of old Mark Coleman hammer style him against the cage. He does it in so many fights. If you look back, it's all KO, TKO punches against cages, all round 1, all early round 2. I do see him getting him out of there pretty quick. I think there's a size advantage as well. Khalid is a big middleweight. He cuts a lot of weight. And Anthony's, as you said, the cardio should have been there, especially with Team Elevation. It's what they're known for, going the distance, being better in the 2nd and the 3rd rounds. But no, I think this is a fight for Khalid. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He's got momentum. I know Anthony's got prospects of getting into the UFC, hence he did the Contender Series twice, and I'm sure he'll be back again. But I think this is an upset. If it's in UK betting, I think Khalid is an underdog.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Because over here he's definitely not. He's 3-1 favorite over here.
Yeah, he's a 2-1 underdog here. So English betting is it is, isn't it? So yeah, I think they if you see someone in the UFC, even if it's Contender Series, they still in the UK. A lot of people are like, oh, he's going to be better. It's the
but Murza-Aliyev was in the UFC.
1 fight, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he dominated.
Dominated.
Galloway.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. I mean,
short memories.
I think that early on as Khalid's, as the fight goes on, ideally that's when Anthony Adams would take over or think he would take over. Impa, was a kind of a cardio monster at 185 also. He's still a cardio monster at 170. So there's also that to consider. Khalid does with that style by the 2nd and 3rd round really slow down and can appear to lose rounds. So,
but can he bank 2 rounds early on? Is what I'm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I think he can. I think in general, Anthony accepts kind of those positions a little bit too. So, I wish I could get him at underdog, but nope. 3-1 here. I like him paired up with, even just Shane Keefe right there for a quick double. But overall, I think he can be one that you put in some parlays. I'll also bet him inside the distance if that prop becomes available. But next fight, another one, not a lot to say about. We got 0-0 versus 0-0. Bobby Soronino the third, taking on Aaron Hunter. That's Aaron Erin Hunter. That is typically how females spell their name, at least over here, but probably ended up getting bullied a lot and making him a tough fighter. So this
Don't say it
fight,
to his face, yeah.
yeah, exactly. You know, whatever. As a fellow Aaron, no hate here. This is a bantamweight fight here for these two debutantes. There's only so much we're going to be able to say here. Aaron Hunter, so far as amateur 3-3, lost his last two, hasn't fought since 2020, February of last year. Has not been finished any of his three losses. They were all decision losses. And he's finished two of his three amateur wins, one submission, one KO, both in the first round as well as a decision here.
It's bizarre, isn't it? He's decided pro.
Yeah.
It's time to go pro after coming off two back-to-back losses.
Yeah, back-to-back losses and 3-3. I'm not sure what he saw. Bobby Soronino, that's how you say it. Bobby Soronino the third. Take him. He's got 4 wins as an amateur in 4 fights, 1 finish in the third round, 3 decisions. SFC was his last fight back in February of last year. So, yeah, I mean, Bobby's going to be the favorite here. Seems to be the better fighter and well-rounded, but it's 2 amateurs. I don't know about the guys they face. Very little tape available. And I'm going to guess Bobby's price isn't worth it when they show a 4-0 fighter going against a 3-3. So it's just one I'm just going to watch. But, yeah, were you able to get any reads?
You'd expect Bobby to win this. I mean, the only thing you can say is the other guy's got more experience, but it hasn't that an extra 2 amateur fights and the other guy's decision, not even split decision, so he's probably dominated them, just can't put them away. So, yeah, you go with the guy in form and who looks like he's on a roll.
Yeah, minus 650 on Bobby Soronino. I mean, just like, yeah, it's not worth it. Dog or pass. Like, it's just, yeah. I'm not a fan of minus 700 on a guy who's never fought professionally. 5'7" versus 5'8". So I think if anything, there's a little size advantage for Aaron also. I'd be interested to see the weigh-ins, because Aaron does look bigger, but I don't know if that will really matter here. So, yeah, next one, we got another 0-0 here. We're just going to kind of go through these ones quickly. Cool name, Socrates Hernandez, taking on Pedro Juarez. Socrates Hernandez, very, very cool name. That's about all I was able to find on him, though. Pedro Juarez, I was able to find a few of his fights, 5'6", fighting on Last Stand Fight Team, taking on the 5'11". Socrates here, 3-1 as an amateur was Pedro Juarez. Hasn't fought since September of 2019, nearly 2-year layoff. Fought with 209 beatdown for all 5 of his fights. I've never heard of 209 beatdown ever. So don't know much about his opponents either. He had a shoulder injury to win 1 fight and decisions in his other 3 fights. 2 of those wins, 1 loss. 2-2 Socrates Hernandez, 5'11" here. Did win his last amateur bout in February of last year. Other than that, alternates wins and losses. Got a KO in his last fight. Decisions in the other 3.
Why are these fights so high up the card?
I don't know.
Why are these not the beginners, or even on an amateur? These need to be the prelims
or the post limbs. Bring back the post limbs.
Yeah, warm down fights for people leaving. Yeah,
I don't really understand either. I'll pick Pedro because Socrates has a win by shoulder injury and a split decision. Otherwise, 2 losses. So, but I have no idea. Like, I didn't spend a lot of time on this fight. I think that I have 29 fights to break down and study today, and this is one that I decided to let go by the wayside.
I don't think many people know, other than Socrates' mum, knows how he fights. So you got to roll the dice here. Just go with the form. and the form says 3 W's and an L is better than 2 W's.
Yeah, and minus 225. Who in their right mind is betting that? Like, just let it go.
Addicts. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, I mean, let it go. I'll put it in my long shot parlay, and that's it. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, it's Socrates is 5'11", so there's going to be quite a reach disadvantage for Pedro. 5'6" is very, very short for 135, or 145, I should say. So yeah, who knows? Now the card really gets back on the wheels a little bit. I think this kind of has a low key potential at fight of the night. I think this is going to be very entertaining for however long it lasts, and I think it's mostly going to be a stand-up affair here between Abraham Vessau and Albert Gonzalez. Fortunately, a lot of tape on both these guys. Albert Gonzalez, I will be breaking down first, a 29-year-old, 6'4", 77-inch reach. And this fight is a catchweight at 175. He's fought catchweights at 180 before, fought as low as 170. He's 29 years old, 2-2 out of Fresno, Dethrone Base Camp, taking on Dragon House MMA, and the 33-year-old in Abraham. Albert, Big Al is his nickname, rightly so, 6'4". Should be able to make the weight here of 175. His last fight was in Bellator last October. It was a welterweight fight. He was the underdog against Zima, a 3-4 opponent in Zima, and he ended up retiring him after the second round. Really put a beat down on him. His fight against Tyson Miller was super unfortunate. Ended up breaking his leg, Anderson Silva, Weidman style. Yeah, the dude didn't even yell or anything. He just took the leg break and just was like, "Oh, my leg's broken," and was so calm about it. It was kind of crazy, but yeah, definitely came back into the last fight through the leg kicks, through body kicks. Did not seem hesitant or afraid at all. So definitely really impressed with what I've been able to see from Gonzalez. I love the frame as well. It's just sometimes he's a little bit inactive with the strikes. It allows his opponents to kind of take control. But again, 2-2, one of those is a leg injury, and he lost his debut with Combate. So not really too much to hang your head on there. Abraham Vessau, 5-3 now, 33 years old, out of Dragon House MMA, lost his last fight out to Renato Valente. We've seen Renato Valente go on and have some pretty good success himself. The Brazilian went on since the Abraham fight. He gave Mark Martin a hell of a fight with LFA. Mark Martin's really good. And he's the one who beat Onejeke with LFA. And that was a very good, impressive fight there. And that was only back in July. So definitely not a terrible loss there. Third round rear naked choke for Renato there. J2 Roswell, he put away, as well as Travis Gervais, two guys not too familiar with. He was knocked out by a 1-2 opponent as well, but he has switched to Dragon House since then. He was at a much smaller camp back then. Since being at Dragon House, the form looks to be much better. His stand-up looked good against Renato, albeit that was back in September of 2019. I think this fight takes place mostly on the feet. I do think that of the two, Abraham's the one who looks to maybe get this to the ground, implement some ground and pound at times. I've kind of gone back and forth on this one. I think it has a potential of fight of the night. But I'm going to go with Albert Gonzalez. I really do think his frame is going to be a huge, huge advantage. I like the toughness coming back from the injury and everything. I think that he's got the straighter shots. Abraham's a little more looping and a little more of a brawler, a little more straight boxer. I think Albert mixes up the Muay Thai and kicks a little bit more here, can fight it at his range here. And yes, Elliot, 2 breakdowns today. UFC later tonight, but I got 2 co-hosts. And we all stay grinding. Everybody stay grinding here. 29 fights today. Indeed, Bunny. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this matchup? I'm really excited about this one, actually. It's a one catchweight bout. I do think that is Albert's advantage as well. It's a bigger fighter.
That was my thought. It was if it's an advantage for it to be at catch weight because the other guy's got a nice 77-inch reach though. So if he can keep it at a distance with that Muay Thai style, it can cause a lot of problems. But his record suggests, and his previous fights suggest that he can't. So the size advantage of getting closer does go with Abraham. So I do feel it is going to be an Abraham kind of picking him apart. And again, I think he's fought better people. Other than the last fight, he's fought better people in my opinion.
Abraham.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So you're going with Abraham.
I'm going with Abraham as well. I don't think I've disagreed so far.
Yeah. No. This is our first disagreement. This is a totally reasonable one. Abraham is the slight favorite, minus 135. It's near pick'em, plus 115 on a 2-2 fighter. I think that is pretty impressive. And again, the fight where he broke his leg, he was winning the fight before he lost it, albeit only a couple minutes in. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very close one. Totally reasonable disagreement there. I like the youth. I like the size there of Albert, Big Al as he goes by. But we'll see. Albert also has a decent amateur career as well at 6-2. I do like the fact that he's faced Nick Maximov over there as well. Went to a decision there. Did not get submitted by the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt there. So definitely very impressive there as well. Should be a really good fight.
If you can make the weight.
Well, yeah, right. And Abraham also has fought at catchweight. They both have quite a bit of experience there. 77 inches versus 73 inches. I'm banking on the reach advantage.
Makes me think, why not fight a middle? Why not middleweight? Why catchweight? Have it at least
it's Darren Till problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's he has fought at welterweight and won at welterweight, but I do think that it's telling that he's taking a catchweight bout and probably should move up at 29 years old. But next fight here, another really excellent fight at 205. I think it's one of the best fights on the card. Easily could be on the main card, but it's our featured prelim here. Grant Neal versus Alex Polizzi. Easy Alex Polizzi versus the truth in Grant Neal. I'll be breaking down easy Alex Polizzi first here. 8-1, only loss coming to Julius Anglickas. Julius Anglickas, one of the best 205ers in all of Bellator, including in the Bellator 205 light heavyweight Grand Prix. No shame there. He did implement his grappling at times against Julius, but also Julius was able to out-wrestle him, and we kind of saw when Polizzi gets wrestled, it's one of the best strategies you can do if you can pull it off against a wrestler, is wrestle the wrestler, put the wrestler on his back, definitely threw off Polizzi's game. But Polizzi came back against an enormous Gustavo Trujillo. I don't know if you saw those weigh-ins, but Gustavo Trujillo looks like he was on all of the sauce.
Looked like he ate Gustavo Trujillo.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was crazy. And Polizzi withstood some really heavy shots in that first couple minutes. And then once that got to the ground and got into grappling, straight arm bar, I mean, it was just world-class. Polizzi is one of the best grapplers in this division. He is a little bit undersized for 205. 6 foot, 72-inch reach, and he is all of that 6 foot and all of that 72-inch reach. He looks like a little bit small in there, but he's been able to beat some really good, solid opponents. Rafael Carvalho, he beat, and that was when Carvalho came up to light heavyweight. So he did beat a very good Jamal Pogas and LFA. That was in the 4th round as well. That was a really good fight. Daniel Jolly, another large 205er. So he's taken on a lot of big light heavyweights in his career. Julius Anglickas also huge. Grant Neal as well. So has a lot of
finishes as well. Yeah,
has a lot of finishes, and they're coming in the first round a lot of times. Has a second round finish, but otherwise, 2 second round finishes, but 4 first round finishes, ground and pound, rear naked chokes, arm bars, heel hook 4th round finish, a decision of former middleweight champion Rafael Carvalho. as an amateur, had a very good amateur career as well. Went undefeated there, 6-0. I mean, there's beat a John Jones, not but So I mean, there's a lot to really like about Polizzi. The Anglicas fight was close, but Anglicas did win. I don't think necessarily Grant Neal can replicate the Anglicas game plan, though. I just don't know how many light heavyweights really are as well-rounded and keep that consistent, steady pace that Julius does. Grant Neal does kind of come out pretty hot in his fights, and it works for the most part. He's undefeated as a pro, undefeated as an amateur, 12-0, fighting out of Colorado. Went to Colorado State, had some issues with being accused of a sexual assault in college, actually, that ruined his amateur career as a wrestler. So found fighting in 2017, knockout, submission, first round, submission, first round, has a couple of decisions, went 5-0 as 6-0 as an amateur, 6-0 as a pro. Has finished all but 2 of his fights as a pro. Absolutely just torched Tyree Fortune in their last fight. And, in there, like Tyree was saying before the fight, I don't quit. And then, as soon as that rear naked choke was even half sunk in, he was tapping. He quit very quickly. So whether that's Grant Neal or Tyree Fortune just not being that great, we don't know. Hamza Salim, definitely probably the win on his record, I think, is the most impressive. So I do think that is a good win. He had to go to decision for that. He does slow the pace as the fight goes significantly. He does really come in there with a blitzing style. This is a fight I can really see him beating Polizzi in the first round, Polizzi taking round 2 and 3. I also could see Polizzi. My pick is Polizzi. I like easy Polizzi here. Grant Neal has a ton of momentum. I think Polizzi's faced a much higher level of competition here. I do think that at a certain point, being undefeated works against you, and I think this could be the fight where it starts to work against Neal, where he just kind of sticks with the same type of game plan, doesn't adjust. So whoever gets on top, though, whoever's a better wrestler, I think really does win this fight. Neal, slight advantage on the stand-up, but I think this is going to be a lot of grappling, a lot of scrambles. I got Polizzi.
Yeah, I think they mirror each other quite well.
Yeah.
They're very heavy base, but obviously Easy's got the suplexes, what he's known for. He does the crazy takedowns, and he's gone to the fourth round. He's got a good gas tank, whereas Grant Neal he's got one game plan and it's worked perfectly his whole amateur career and his whole pro career so far. But what happens when he does hit that wall, when someone says no to his game plan? Does he have that backup? And I think this is going to be where he has no backup. He has no fork in the road. It's okay, I've stopped here and that's it. Yeah. I think this could easily be a decision to me. This is Alex Polizzi decision. It's annoying and it's quite boring that I just keep agreeing. Like, we're going pretty much the same picks for the whole way through, but I've highlighted them so I'm not copying.
No.
I think this is easily a first round for. If Grant can't get it done in round 1, I think it's Polizzi's all day.
Yeah.
So it's all about round 1 for me, and I think Polizzi's too smart. He's fought better people. He's won a title in another, in LFA. So
huge.
Exactly. He's fought really good people. Just because they're not in the UFC or not high in the Bellator does not mean they're not quality opponents. So, yeah, I've got Polizzi winning this by decision, though.
Yeah, and it's a rare time where Polizzi's the taller light heavyweight, 6 foot versus 5'11". These guys are very similar, and I think it could look a lot for Grant Neal like it did for Polizzi when he came up against Julius Anglicas, where Polizzi's game plan worked every single fight before that, and he stuck to it in that fight. And then when it didn't work, he was a little bit out of sorts and just, doing his best. But I mean, this is an underdog in Polizzi. One of the underdogs I really do like, plus 170, minus 225 on Grant Neal. A lot of hype right now on Grant Neal for good reason, but he didn't beat. He didn't beat Tyrell Fortune. He beat Tyree Fortune. It's very different Fortune brothers. I will just say that. I like Alex Polizzi. I like both these guys, but I do think Polizzi takes this one.
You wouldn't be
Plus,
surprised if Grant wins. That's it, isn't it? It's
no, I definitely wouldn't. I think it's a close one, and just the odds really dictate me taking a shot at the dog. We are on to the main card here. Georgie Karakian taking on Saul Rogers. I know Saul Rogers is a favorite of yours, so I won't go too deep into kind of his background here. But 14-4 for the former Ultimate Fighter. 31 years old and 9 months for the Hangman Saul Rogers. I didn't know his nickname was the Hangman. It's kind of interesting nickname. 5'10",
guillotine in him, isn't it?
That makes sense. Yeah, 5'10", 71-inch reach, fighting SBG Manchester. Last fought in April of this year with BFC, also known as Bellator Fighting Championship. Mads Burnell was his opponent in that one. Mads Burnell he's on some sort of streak since going on
so
the Cage
good.
Warriors. He really has formed his game, and he was just the better version of Saul Rogers.
Yeah.
He moved Saul Rogers out of the 145 division, and just overall, it was a really impressive performance by Mads. It was a closely odds fight, and Mads just made Saul kind of look amateur in that fight. Before that, RB Mezadov, he was able to get the rear naked choke in that one of a 13-3 opponent, so very solid. Close decision loss to Daniel Weichel, very close one. Aiden Lee, it's been kind of.
Aiden Lee's a very good striker as well, ex-Cage Warriors as well.
And he just controlled them with the grappling. It's kind of been back and forth, up and down since March of 2017, alternating loss-win, loss-win. He's coming off a loss in this one. So originally was supposed to face Adam Piccolotti. Georgie Karakian came in on short notice here. So that's definitely, I think, a potential factor here. But at 31, 11-1, that's 43 fights for Georgie. 36 years old. I think he's going to be ready for this one. 5'8", 67.5-inch reach by Millennia MMA. Coming off of the win of Kiefer Crosby. Just a clinic in that one. Arm triangle victory back in July. Looked really good. Had a tough split win against Bryce Logan before a split loss to Miles Jury. And then, guillotine choke of Paul Redman. Lost to AJ McKee.
Scratch that one off my memory. Yeah,
that was a brutal one.
AJ
McKee won in 8 seconds there.
Left hook,
but I mean, since the AJ McKee fight, 3 of 4 wins, all pretty high-level opponents. Paul Redman's not great, but the other 3 are pretty solid. I think this is a really good fight, very close fight. It seems that Saul Rogers is matched up in close fights constantly. I'm going to go with Georgie on short notice here. I'm a little bit nervous for sure, but I think Georgie a little bit more used to the weight class. Saul moving up here, I think is definitely an interesting factor. Georgie's been up here for a little longer, a little more acclimated, and just a little bit more well-rounded. I feel like Saul has to make this a grappling bout and just has trouble mixing it up for me. So I got Georgie here. And Georgie is the slight underdog too. So
I think on a betting terms, I think Georgie is probably the smart money. Just because Saul does struggle to implement a striking game plan. He always has, and that's always been his weak spot. If he had that, he would have been in the UFC. He would have had that streak. He would have been world. He would have been a Leon Edwards standard fighter to me. Because his ground game, his grappling is phenomenal, and it's very unusual to have a Brit with such good wrestling. Other than Brad Pickett, like Nathaniel Wood under him has very good wrestling as an Englishman. Not many of us, have that style. It took Bisping into his 30s before he even started developing a wrestling game. So to Saul having that grappling base, having the Mads Burnell style, he just got out Saul Rogers basically by Mads. Mads ex-UFC, ex-Cage Warriors champion. He did the Nicholas Dolby, won Cage Warriors, went into the UFC, got cut back. Too good for the domestic scene. So he goes into the Bellator, which is what I kind of foresee for Darren Stewart and people like that. They're not quite good enough for the international circuit, and that's Saul and that's Georgie. But this is such a close matchup.
Yeah,
I'm gonna back my man because it's
that's fair.
Yeah, and I can see him catching him because Georgie he does leave his neck out there when he goes for takedowns, but is he going to go for a takedown knowing that?
Dude, we all thought this.
Yeah, exactly, and especially if you're from England as well, we would like, okay, hallelujah, finally we've got a grappler, we've got a submission wizard from the UK. And
did he lose to Artem Lobov on Tough?
Okay, he was with the Ryan Hall. He beat Ryan Hall.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great fight too.
So there you go, another one. So that's how good he is. He implemented a grappling game where he could shut down Ryan Hall, and that
was a great fight.
And that dude just messes with your head. So
yeah, I mean, he is really good. Yeah, I think this is a great fight.
If Saul's going to win, he's gonna grab a neck. He's going to grab a neck. Otherwise, it's Georgie all day. He unless it's just a lucky shot, Georgie's better on the fit. He really is. Georgie's got what did he do other than the 8-second loss to AJ?
Right.
Which hasn't shown his striking that great. That could happen to anyone, and it's AJ. He's phenomenal.
Yeah. That was a crazy knockout.
Exactly. So, if Saul can clamp on in the cage and go for a kind of Brian Ortega, Cub Swanson guillotine, I can see that kind of thing happening. It's gonna be snatching the neck. So I'm gonna say he gets a guillotine or an anaconda or a Darce. Something.
Has Saul fought at 155?
Not to my knowowledge.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
But he's a big dude cutting anyway.
No, he definitely can fit the frame. I mean, he's got a 5 to 6 inch reach advantage, 4 inches in height. I mean, he's always looked gigantic for 145, so I'll be curious to see how much that weight cut has been holding back from maybe the ability to fully expand the game plan. So that's definitely an X factor here. Georgie is the plus 110 underdog. I was very surprised by that, even on short notice. That Georgie is the underdog. I do think short notice. Also 5'8" versus 5'11". I mean, he's going to be much smaller than Saul here, and so. But yeah, Saul is minus 130. I think that Georgie's a decent underdog to take a shot at. That's 3 straight underdogs on my card. We're Gonzalez, Alex Polizzi, and Georgie Karakian. So,
all super close fights.
Very close fights. So let's go 1 out of 3 at least on those, so I can at least end up in a little bit of positive money. But 2 out of 3, we got a real nice day. 3 out of 3, we're eating at the sizzler, as they say here in the States. But I'm telling you right now, my next fight here is certainly not an upset on my card. Christian Edwards versus Ben Parrish. I've broken down this card, broken down this fight a couple times now because it's been moved around, and they are like, Ben, you are facing Christian Edwards no matter what. We're just making you face Christian Edwards. And
we want you to die.
Big Tuna, we want you to die. Like, seriously, Big Tuna. And I love the nickname. Like, I really, really do. I do. He looks like a fun guy. There's something as like a formerly not greatly conditioned person myself that I like seeing these really fat guys who can all of a sudden just exercise, perform, and it's like, oh, you're being these shredded dudes or these. You don't even look like you should be fighting, and that's Ben Parrish for you. He's got he's got a very unimpressive physique, but he's got a win over Teddy Holder. Teddy Holder is not a bad regional win, and
but look at his first 3 opponents. So you know.
Oh yeah, 3-14, 0-4, 1-1. That is for a total of a 4-19 record in his first 3 opponents. He did finish them all.
Very deceiving, isn't it? Yeah.
He's finished all 4 of his opponents with submissions, 2 arm bars, 2 rear naked chokes. Again, Teddy Holder, not bad. He really isn't. 10-5, has not fought since fighting Ben Parrish, so that was kind of the end of the career. And in the end of the career, we really did kind of see Teddy Holder fall apart. Lost 5 of his last 6, albeit to good levels of competition. But when your best win is Teddy Holder, and you really got to hold on to that, it does say a little bit about your level of competition, probably, Ben. Got to be honest here, not the best level of competition. As an amateur, faced Raheem Kinney twice, got knocked out by him once. Started his amateur career in 2013. So, yeah, I mean, he's 30, I believe 32, 33 years old now, facing Christian Edwards. They've made this fight 3 times. I broke this fight down in May. Christian Edwards wasn't clear to compete. I broke it down in June. Ben Parrish withdrew. So they each got one withdrawal. Christian Edwards, 5-0, 22 years old. Definitely a very hyped prospect, 205, fighting out of Oklahoma, 78.5-inch reach, 6-inch reach advantage, 8 straight wins going back to his amateur career. Beat Simon Biong, not impressively, but a 7-1 opponent, and just kind of grounded him. He finished Hamazan Salim. Hamazan Salim, again, he's faced just a lot of really good guys, but Hamazan, to finish him, is a very impressive fight. Marco Hutch, that was a good athletic opponent for Christian Edwards. Finished him. Quick knockout of Cesar Bennett, who never fought again. Quick knockout of Justin Vargas. I mean, he seems to have the full tool belt. His last fight was his biggest test and the least impressive he looked. But I do think Simon Biong is a tougher test than Ben Parrish. Ben Parrish is going to have to get on his back, get on top of him, and get a submission. Otherwise, I don't see any way he beats Christian Edwards, and I don't see him being able to out-wrestle Christian Edwards here.
Or out-cardio him. No.
Yeah, I talked about this way too much for the odds that are at this. Christian Edwards, obviously.
Christian Edwards all day. Yeah, I don't need to add any more other than Ben Parrish probably going to die.
Yeah, minus 1,000. So that is just insane. I might have to put down a very small wager on Ben Parrish because that's just stupid.
$1.
$5, $50, like 20 bucks. Like we'll win you a very nice chunk of change on a 5-1 underdog.
Or you've just
$20
lost
wins you
$20. I think you're just going to lose $20.
No, yeah, exactly. No, there's nothing here to do really. I mean, I take Christian Edwards inside the distance, but that's still going to be probably minus 350 or something.
Yeah,
it's going to be significant. This is pretty much unbettable all the way around. You don't want to lose money on Ben Parrish. Don't bet him. I was clearly joking in case you were taking that serious. I am not putting $20 on Ben Parrish. I'll donate that to a charity before I donate it to my bookie. So, yeah, minus 1,000 is annoying. Plus 625 actually on Ben Parrish. Ben Parrish does train with Hannah Guy, who beat Valerie Lareda a couple months ago. So there's that. But that's like the most I could find about the guys he's training with. So not a huge training camp or anything for Ben, training down in Mississippi. Christian Edwards, they want to get him a win. Ben has fought at middleweight previous to this. So going back up to light heavyweight, yeah, not going to be a good night for Ben. But I won't be betting it too heavily because that's stupid. So next fight here, not a fantastic fight, but a good fight for, I believe, Lara to get back on the winning track, which is what Bellator wants. Lara is very marketable. Take that to mean what you would like. But they definitely want to market Alejandra Lara here. The Colombian, 27 years old, taking on the nearly 37-year-old Diana Vitamin D Bennett. Awful nickname. Alejandra Azul Lara.
I thought it was fake when I first saw it.
No, unfortunately, it's very real. And yeah, Alejandro, 27 years old, 5'7", 69-inch reach. Alejandro, 9-4. She is coming off of a loss to Kana Watanabe by split. Kana Watanabe won that fight. I bet Kana Watanabe as a plus 110 underdog. I don't know where they're seeing a split from. But Alejandra definitely has some issues with grappling at points. She can definitely be kind of dominated in that realm at times and controlled at least. She was finished by the champion Leminger, McFarland. Juliana Velasquez really implemented quite a bit of grappling in her fight as a Muay Thai fighter to win that. Won it by a split. So Lara is very good on the feet. Has very good movement, very active with the volume. Her ground and pound won her a fight against Taylor Turner. She beat Vita Ortega by decision. Vita is a very challenging opponent. Has a couple of rear naked chokes of lower level opponents. Her other loss coming to Sabina Mazo, who's in the UFC. We've seen how she does. Deanna Bennett, her last win was against Miranda Maverick. So there is that. That's a very positive. It was in, I believe, 2019 it was in. And I believe it was only a 2-round fight. Might have been a 3-round fight because then she came back for the Phoenix series where she beat Liz Tracy and Diana Torquato, although those were 1-round fights because they were part of a tournament. And then she lost to Miranda Maverick in the final, which was a 3-round fight. She got finished. She ended up getting finished by Liz Carmouche her last time out in Bellator. It was a decently close fight, but Liz kind of controlled it till the end. They were supposed to fight back in July. Bout got rescheduled. Deanna Bennett, she's a veteran. She's a journey woman. I think her time has somewhat passed, honestly, and I think this is Lara's fight to kind of take. I think that she'll improve a lot from that loss to Watanabe. Watanabe, much better, heavier grappler, and she was able to get out from positions against Watanabe. I just don't see Lara losing this one. I do think they set her up high on the card to get some exposure and get some momentum against a relatively decent known regional fighter in Deanna Bennett. But yeah, I got Lara here. What's going on, Anaconda Bets? Thanks for joining us. Just in the tail end of this Bellator breakdown here. But yeah, your thoughts, Lewis, on this fight?
Yeah, I like Lara in this as well, especially with the karate style movement. It does, she's got a long range for this kind of fight. Deanna, as you say, she's at the end of her game here. Clearly, she has fought some good opponents, and that's the difference. But the only issue for me is she's losing in the same ways and doesn't learn from anything. Whereas Lara, I think she started like 22 years old or something. She's only 27 now. As you said,
exactly.
She's marketable.
Just turned 27.
Do you know what I mean? She's super young. She's super committed as well. Clearly, Bellator rate her high. I think this is, as you say, set up for her to win because it's a decent name in the women's circuit to get on her record. If you've beaten this lady, this lady has beaten Miranda Maverick, who's now in the UFC, and people like this. So, it's a good name to have on you. And Liz Carmouche, there's no, she lost to Liz Carmouche, but that's no.
No, you look at
Eubanks, you can see down the list. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's Karina
fights.
Rodriguez is a very good opponent.
Roxanne Modafferi,
Roxanne Modafferi, Liviana Souza, back when she was undefeated. Jody Escobar, even. I mean, Jody Escobar's not great, but it was a split decision.
Juliana Pena in her second ever fight.
Yeah, Jennifer Maya, she has a win over. I mean, she has been around for a long time. And, I just think that it's just a kind of a changing of the guards here. But, yeah, Deanna can definitely come in here and spoil Lara. I think a lot of people are going to be on Lara here. Yeah. And it's a decent price, minus 160, plus 130. The odds are definitely expecting this to be a close fight. I personally think it's going to be Lara, and I like that price, but I'm not going to go over the top with it. And I suggest you guys kind of be cautious too, but third from the top, Bellator definitely has their dog in the race, and it's Alejandra. But that does not always matter at all. We are to the co-main event here at 170 pounds. Fantastic fight. The last two fights are excellent. There's several really good fights on this card. But Neiman Gracie, one of the best Gracies in MMA ever, in my opinion, taking on Mark Leminger. A very solid matchup here. I really do appreciate Mark Leminger kind of getting an opportunity here. Again, after he kind of stumbled against Yaroslav Amosov, obviously now the welterweight champion, and we've seen how dominant he was, but he had a cut against Yaroslav Amosov to stop the fight. Jaleel Willis missed weight for their fight, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I'm wrong. If not, either Jaleel Willis, really solid welterweight fighter, and it was a really good fight. The DeMarcus Jackson fight was just a really good showing by Mark Leminger. DeMarcus actually came out and tried to wrestle Leminger in the first round, and I just thought that was error in judgment by DeMarcus. But Leminger admitted after the fight he was not ready for that to be the strategy, and so he was able to adjust there. I think that's a huge positive. Here, Mark Leminger is a pretty massive welterweight as well. I'll be interested to see the weigh-ins, but he's listed at 6'1" here, 170. The reach is only 70 inches, but he looks like a big welterweight to me. Has good ground and pound, used that in his Bellator debut to get a win over Jake Smith. The Marcus Jackson he put away with strikes in round 2. And that was a fight that I believe was very close. He was like a very slight favorite in that one. Ben Eagley is actually a really solid regional fighter as well. Very tricky on the ground. Had a good war with Jason Witt on the regional scene. I've liked what Leminger's done so far here. Only 28 years old too, really entering that prime. Neiman Gracie, 10-2, has taken on a ton of extremely talented fighters, especially in the Bellator run. He's been on 32 years old, 6'74" reach, so he does have a slight reach advantage. I'll be interested to see how they match up off the scales. He's coming off a tough loss against Jason Jackson, but Jason Jackson, one of the hottest fighters in all of Bellator. I don't think there's any shame in the way he lost that fight. I did have Neiman going into that fight, so I was, I definitely was wrong, but yeah, Jason Jackson just kind of took it to him. The pace, the speed, overall was really impressive. Before that, heel hook of John Fitch in a fight he was winning for the most part. Close fight against Rory McDonald, but Rory just kind of out-MMA'd him. And then it was the Ed Ruth fight that I think really got my attention. A few other fights in Bellator before that against lower levels of competition. Actually, he's been in Bellator for 5 fights leading up to the Ed Ruth fight, so really did work his way up there. Got rear naked choke in round 4 against Ed Ruth. It's kind of the wrestling of Neiman Gracie that I think makes him one of the more impressive Gracies, and he has decent stand-up. This is a really close fight. I'm going to go with Neiman Gracie based on facing the high-level wrestling opponents previously. I do think that Leminger needs to wrestle in this fight to win, so it puts him in a pretty tough situation to where if it's on the feet, I do think Neiman actually has a little bit of an advantage and might be the one to get Leminger down. I could see this going distance, though, as opposed to inside the distance, so over 2.5 rounds I might bet, because I just got a feeling Leminger could kind of play spoiler in this one, but I'm going to pick Gracie if I had to pick. But this is a really close fight, way closer than the odds are saying. Gracie's a -300 favorite. I just think that is very overblown here. Leminger's been in there with very good level opponents recently too, and not getting embarrassed. So I wanted to pick Leminger. I just didn't have the heart. I know I'm a coward.
I think a lot of people are going to be cowards in this one because, as you say, like the staring L in my face right now is he went to the decision with Rory McDonald. Yes, he got beaten, and Rory pretty much won most, if not all rounds. But he went the distance.
Yeah.
He has so many variants of submissions as well, off his back or on top. When the Gracie can strike, it's really worrying. And that was always the thing. When he's not afraid to throw, it's almost the Ryan Hall effect. Ryan Hall doesn't care if he gets taken down, so he's just going to throw these wild tornado kicks almost.
Exactly.
And that's what Neiman's done. Neiman's got a very decent stand-up game. It's not exceptional, but it is very good.
And decent wrestling too.
His takedowns are a lot better than a normal. When you've come against Roger Gracie when he was in the UFC, Roger Gracie is the greatest grappler in jiu-jitsu ever. But his takedowns suck balls. It was just tricks.
And his stand-up's even worse.
Exactly. Whereas Neiman's like the welterweight version of Roger to me in Bellator. He's that generation. I think it's going to be really tricky here for him not to win. I think Mark's in a real tight situation where he could turn a page with striking. I think he could outpoint him in striking if he's smart, and he could really show the judges I can counter his takedowns. But I don't see him doing that for all the rounds. I see Neiman he's going to get into the mat at some stage.
Yeah.
And when he does, you're not going to get him off you. If he gets a body triangle on you, you're toast. If he gets that Darce locks, if he gets your neck,
he doesn't even have to get it under the neck either.
No, he crank it. Yeah, exactly. He grab an arm, he grab a neck, he grab off his back. He's
grab the jaw. Yeah.
You know, if he just gets an inkling, he's an alligator, he's a crocodile. You know, he just snatches and rolls, and that's it. You're done. So in that fact, I think he's got the more killer instinct, is what I'm trying to say, and I think that is what I like about Niemann. And I'm going to also be a coward and bet Niemann on this one.
Yeah. And Niemann's faced some very high level wrestlers too, so
and beat John Fitch. I know it's at the end of the career, but John Fitch is known as the lay and pray boring.
Exactly.
And he out lay and prayed the boring. So
and then heel hooked him at the end.
And then heel hooked him. You know, he still finished John. He didn't do it, John.
I think he injured John on that heel hook too.
Good.
It was a nasty heel hook. But yeah, minus 300 on Niemann. I don't think it's the worst price in the world. Honestly, especially when I do think it's a parlayable piece. I just like Mark Leminger. I think that's part of why I really just
he deserves something after this, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that DeMarcus Jackson fight was really impressive to me. But this is Niemann. He's lost to two of the best and didn't get embarrassed in either one of those fights. Like really didn't against Jason Jackson. That was a close one, 2 rounds to 1. So. Yeah, we're to the main event now, and it's at light heavyweight. We've got Yoel Romero versus Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis. This is an interesting one. I've been waiting, I guess, for Yoel Romero's light heavyweight Bellator debut. I'm still not sure if it's going to ever happen, but we'll see. But allegedly, this is the main event. I would not be surprised if the main event is Niemann Gracie versus Mark Leminger after a weight miss or something here. I just don't know. There's just always something with Yoel Romero. But Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis, 22-6, only 36 years old still, 6'2", 78-inch reach for the Penn State wrestler out of Alliance MMA. Lost his last fight out to Nemkov by decision. Had a split decision of Lyoto Machida prior to that. Finished Carl Albertson by punches and elbows from the back mount. That was a gorgeous performance, that fight. Ended up putting Liam McGeary away in the third round on like a face crank that they just decided, like, McGeary was clearly injured. He tapped as soon as the hands were even semi-locked, so he didn't get a submission there. But good performances there. His only loss in his last 5 is 2 to Nemkov. Had a split decision loss, and then
I don't even think he lost that first fight.
Yeah, I thought he won 2-3. Yeah, I agree. And also a split decision against Bader, which I think he arguably won. So it's just, his last 3 losses, 3 of his last 4 losses have been split decisions.
1-2 guy. And only
versus guys. Ryan Bader versus Nemkov.
The top of the food chain.
Yeah, even when he faced Emmanuel Newton, which now is kind of funny, but he was top of the food chain when he faced him. Beat Glover Teixeira back in the day. Beat Lyoto Machida back in the day. I mean, he's got very good wins on his record, and the losses are your top flight competition. He's been much more active than Yoel Romero as well. I think he's going to look like a superhero next to Yoel Romero. I just think that there's a frame and size difference in Phil Davis that I just don't think Yoel Romero is. Yoel Romero is going to be jacked, but I don't think he's a 205er. I think he's
a tweener, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a very big 195er. 205 is 20 pounds away from middleweight, and I get middleweight at this point in his age of allegedly 44 years old. Is just too much. He's at least 44. Who knows how old he really is? He hasn't fought since losing to Israel Adesanya in March of 2020. He lost to Paulo Costa, and he lost to Robert Whitaker. So his last win was that third-round finish of Luke Rockhold. He spends a lot of the time plotting, a lot of time not striking. He'll explode and then reserve. He refuses to wrestle in most of his fights. I just don't have a lot of expectations of Yoel Romero at this point. He's fortunate. This is a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. So there is the advantage there. he can knock out Phil Davis, but Phil Davis has never been knocked out. And it's just there's a significant frame difference here. One of these guys has fought his whole career at light heavyweight. The other one hasn't. I'm taking the one who has fought his whole career at light heavyweight. I'm going to take Phil Davis. It's probably going to be a pretty boring decision because, I just think Phil Davis doesn't want to die. And so, I don't blame him. It's just I think it's rinse and repeat against the cage, get some takedowns, work some ground and pound. Maybe keep it on the feet.
Do you think he can take Yoel down?
I think as the fight goes on, possibly. Otherwise, I really just don't. Otherwise, this is just against the cage type of cage work still. And I do think that Phil, with his frame and being a 205er, ends up taking this one. But it's not going to be exciting, so you're not going to feel great betting this one. But I think wins like Carl Albrechtsen, in all seriousness, that's a great win in 2019. Carl Albrechtsen really is on the cusp of being a household name, I believe, with regards to Bellator. So I think that he's got a huge fight coming up with Julius Anglickas in a couple of weeks, actually, which whoever wins that fight is one of the new serious contenders. But getting that finish against Carl Albrechtsen, I do think that if he gets it to the ground, he's a much trickier grappler. The frame, the length can get him into a position where he could even get into like a back mount type of situation, but I think most likely it's like a very ho-hum wrestling decision for Phil Davis. That would be my pick.
Yeah, I'm worried that it's going to be a stalemate on the feet and in the grappling because as you say, Phil implements a good jab and a good low kick, which is what he did against Nemkov. He's got okay movement. It's more back and forth than lateral. And Yoel has no movement. He stands still. Right. He has a high guard, and then he blitzes.
No volume.
He waits to a point and he blitzes, and if that blitz doesn't work, he shells back up until he regains the energy. It's like a video game where he has an energy bar, he depletes it, and then has to wait goes back to the top before he can do it again.
Yep.
Which is what he did. He arguably won the Paulo Costa fight and arguably won the second Robert Whittaker fight. So you can say, in different opinions. I don't believe he did. I thought he beat Costa, because I don't rate Costa at all. I'm going to that another time. But I do think that it's either Phil's going to try and pepper him. I don't think Phil can knock him out on the striking at all. I really don't. No. I think he could tip-a-tapper him and make it quite boring standing and force Yoel to do something. And then he might get caught. That's the only opportunity I could see in the striking. It's either going to be he gets caught by Yoel. Yoel ain't outpointing Phil Davis.
Right.
There's no way. Yoel's not shooting for a takedown. And if he does, even, it's not his young days.
No.
Phil's going to get back up, and he always gets back up. He also has elite level wrestling. They're both elite wrestlers. The wrestling is with Yoel, but he doesn't use it, whereas Phil does. Yep. So MMA wrestling, I would actually give to Phil.
Right.
I think it's going to be a very, very boring fight. Of Phil peppering with the jab, low kick, step away, next round. And that's going to be it. And then in the second round, maybe Yoel's tired. Let's go for a single. Push him against the cage. 12
to 8 significant strikes each round type of thing.
I think it's going to be an anticlimax. It really is. But because of the names, they have to put it as a main event Bellator. If you put this, in the third place and you put Neiman Gracie as the main, people will be like, Yoel Romero, not in the...
Yeah. I mean, they invest in Yoel Romero to put him as a headliner, not to have him.
I think Yoel's lost his wow factor of when he smashed Luke Rockhold against the cage and then kissed him afterwards. I don't think he's got that fear factor anymore. I think Phil's going to do him. It's going to be a boring decision, but he's got a win over
Yoel Romero 20-second knockout, and Bellator's in the Yoel Romero business all of a sudden. Heavy.
All of a sudden, they're investing everything into a 45-year-old.
Yep, and that is why Scott Coker is Scott Coker, everybody. There's once in a while he makes good decisions, like how they've done AJ McKee, how they've done JJ Wilson, some other really great
MVP to a point. Yeah,
MVP. But then they do things like build around a 45-year-old and things like that. But
Fedor still going against Tim Johnson. But
that does call to the end of our Bellator 266 betting breakdown full preview show here. I will be adding the timestamps here for anybody who joined us late. But please go check out Norton MMA over on YouTube. Really good stuff being put on over there as well. Check them out over on Instagram at Norton_MMA. You can see it right there. But yeah, he's a really good source of information. He does train himself as well. So he actually does Muay Thai, correct?
Muay Thai, yeah.
Yeah, so and so he definitely walks the walk as well as talks the talk. He'll be joining me for all Bellator breakdowns as well as Cage Warriors. Miz, appreciate you stopping by as well. I will be back tonight in about 3.5 hours with Brian Pooh Bear Battle and Bunny Boston Comments. She stopped in, but she's at work right now. She'll catch up on this later, but we are breaking down the UFC Fight Night card. Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Ryan Spann. I'm seeing a lot of people on Anthony Smith. Am I going to be with a lot of people? You'll have to tune in tonight. But there we go. Add him to the list. I'm telling you, Anthony Smith, it's amazing. He got buried, then they dug up the corpse, and now are they going to bury it again, or are we going to raise him up? We'll know after Saturday night. We'll know a lot more. But join us tonight, new night, Wednesday at 8 p.m. for the UFC show. But yeah, check out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate everybody. Good luck on your fights. Miz, of course you'll be there. Miz is always there. Miz is a legend. But appreciate you, Miz. Appreciate you, Anaconda Bets, Boston Comments, Elliot, Lewis of Norton MMA. Until next time, my friend, great show. And keep taking care of each other out there, everybody. Peace out.